Hope you're having an amazing one, Wrestlezona family, whenever you happen to be tuning in. My name is Lance Reese, your definitive host for the hour. I've been a fan of professional wrestling since I was about 6 years old, begging my parents to buy me action figures ever since I saw videos of Jeff Hardy's Swanton bombing on YouTube. We got a packed episode for you today, as we here on episode 2 of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse will cover what's happening in the world of WWE, All Elite Wrestling, the Indies, and even wrestling here local in the Valley. Stay tuned to hear which former WWE and UFC star made their in-ring TNA debut, and who won at this year's Survivor Series War Games, all coming up. We have some exciting segments coming up this hour, such as our 10-bell history, and we also have an exclusive interview with Tony Vela, owner of the Wrestling Guy store in Phoenix. Hopping into the wacky world of WWE, Triple H explains how the ID program from WWE will support independent wrestlers. Paul Levesque is trying to bridge the gap between the indies and big leagues through the WWE ID program. He said during the Survivor Series 2024 post-show conference that, financially, we're going to support them in their careers. From an education standpoint, as they are going through their journey, as long as they are continuing to progress, we stay with them. They send us their matches, we're helping to guide them with what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and how they can progress, and how we can make them pros. Speaking of Survivor Series War Games, that was last Saturday, November 30th. I only really caught a glimpse of some of the main card. I watched some of the main match, which the main event was the War Games team of the OG Bloodline, consisting of Roman Reigns, Jay and Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and Paul Heyman guy, CM Punk, as they defeated a team of New Bloodline, consisting of Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Big Bronson Reed. After Sikoa was the last man standing for Team Bloodline 2.0, all 5 of the original Bloodline team hit their finishing moves, ending with a spear from Reigns, who took the pinfall victory. Jey Uso reveals in post-show press conference that brother Jimmy Uso broke a toe from a big spot during the match involving a splash. Speaking of, Big Bronson Reed is outed by Paul Levesque, Triple H, in the same press conference for undergoing medical attention. It is in questionable condition for some following time, as Reed during the match performed a splash from on top of the cage through the table with no one to break his fall. Via ESPN, on the women's side, Rhea Ripley landed an eradicator on Liv Morgan from the second row to give her team of Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley the win over the Judgment Day-led squad of Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, plus Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Elsewhere on the card, Braun Breaker retains the Intercontinental Championship in a triple threat against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Also on that same card, Gunther defended the World Heavyweight Championship with a win and some assistance from Finn Balor over Damian Priest. Big news of the night, Shinsuke Nakamura dethrones LA Knight to become a 3-time winner of the WWE United States Championship. Speaking of Shinsuke, Nakamura debuted a new entrance song ahead of his title victory at War Games. Via Wrestle Talk, ahead of a match on tonight's SmackDown against Andrade, Shinsuke Nakamura debuted a new entrance theme and entrance graphics to accompany his return. The song isn't too different from his theme originally, but new elements have been added to make it more heelish. That wraps up our WWE segment. Let's focus on some All Elite news. Costco guys are over. My dad, as I mentioned in the last show, is in a minority of people who don't like the Costco guys. But I watched the match, and I gotta say, even though it was very textbook and formulaic, it was very engaging. What felt like 35% of the match, though, was Rizzler-oriented, whether it was the crowd chanting his name in various ways or the camera cutting to him doing his signature Riz face. This was in front of the New Jersey crowd at AEW Full Gear, where the Costco guys are actually from. They're from New Jersey. QT Marshall puts over Big Boom AJ, as he's called, and family, even taking a spear from Big Justice near the end to a large pop. The viral sensation and buzz behind them continue to grow, and the powerhouse AJ, who, after doing some research, has a pretty extensive and interesting history of professional wrestling in his career, including but not limited to a 25-year spanning career with matches teaming with the likes of Nova in the Blue Mania, Blue World Order, or another match where AJ, wrestling under real name Eric Justice, teamed up with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, famous member of the Hart family. He was also the champion for New Jersey-based promotion United Wrestling Coalition for the better part of 6 months in the year 2000, being only the 5th man to hold the UWC Heavyweight Championship under the name Tundra. As I digress on about Big Boom AJ and his wrestling career, I really wonder what effect this will have on their careers, like if they're going to commit to the wrestling thing and see where it can go, because I don't know how long a viral moment can take you, to be quite frank, and I also wonder what effect that the match will have on fan and public outlook of AEW, considering that's an interesting call to bring a TikTok sensation into your company and have them win against a veteran like QT Marshall. All Elite Wrestling heads to the Asheville, North Carolina Arena, Harrah's Cherokee Center on January 1st, the new year, to benefit victims of Tropical Storm Helene. AEW will hold a live televised episode of AEW Dynamite Fight for the Fallen that will be its first episode on HBO Max. Nearly 9 months ago, Ricky Starks wrestled his last match in AEW against Top Flight. Throughout that time, Starks and fans have wondered where his time on TV has gone, and any attempts to do other shows have been shut down. Note, Starks had recently resurfaced in GCW and was set to compete in a series of matches for the company. However, late Tuesday night, the organization had been informed that AEW was pulling him from all appearances. GCW didn't discuss many details. Speaking of the indies such as GCW, let's get into that. Stay tuned as we go into what's going on in the world of professional wrestling here in Arizona and also in the indies. Lance Reese, Wrestlezona, 88.7, The Pulse. A former WWE and UFC star has made their TNA debut. On Friday, November 29th, former WWE and UFC star, one half of RK Bro, Matt Riddle, makes his TNA in-ring debut at Turning Point, bro. Riddle was substituting for the Rascals' Trey Miguel, teaming up with other half of Rascals Zachary Wentz and Kushida in a trio match against the recently re-signed Hardy Boys with Ace Austin. The TNA event was held in conjunction with WrestleCade, and Matt Riddle had been backstage for that already and replaced Trey Miguel, who could not attend due to travel complications. Jeff Hardy picks up the pinfall against Kushida. First match officially announced for Ring of Honor's Final Battle 2024 show, one of their biggest events of the year. The Ring of Honor Women's World TV title is on the line as champion Red Velvet faces challenger Legit Layla Hirsch at the iconic Hammerstein Ballroom, Manhattan Center in New York, Friday, December 20th. Game Changer Wrestling returns to Arizona December 13th at the Nile Theater in Mesa. Announced for the card so far is Matthew Justice versus Broski Jimmy, Rich Swann versus Manlike Darcy, Gabbage Daddies versus Wolf Zaddies, Megan Bain versus Dulce Tormenta, alongside scheduled appearances from F.A., Fuego del Sol, and more. Some quick results from the Phoenix Championship Wrestling Live on Broadway show that happened Saturday, November 23rd. Enrique Caldoran defeats El Valiente. GFY defeat Young Money. Grizz Brody defeats Baker Jeffcoat. Lord Draco defeats Eldon Fanu. Joey Hendricks defeats Ken Bogard to retain the Slam U Championship. Devin Reno defeats Jacob East. Mega Test Warriors defeat Sky High to retain the PCW Tag Team Championships. Kevin Koa and Joe Graves fought to a double disqualification. Zamaya defeats Christine Marie to retain the Ultra Woman Championship. And in the main event, John Wolfgang defeats Klaus inside a steel cage to retain the PCW Heavyweight Championship. Next Phoenix Championship Wrestling show will be another live on Broadway at the Jefferson Recreation Center in Mesa on Saturday, January 11th of next year. Let's now move on to our 10-bell history here on Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. 10-bell history. 1. Jerry the King Lawler and the Honky Tonk Man are cousins. 2. Evolution partner Batista is older than Triple H by 6 months. 3. Speaking of Evolution, The Undertaker has defeated every member of Evolution in a singles match at WrestleMania. 4. TNA Impact Wrestling started filming their matches in HD 4 years prior to the WWE doing so. 5. Paul Heyman holds victories over Edge, CM Punk, and both Jeff and Matt Hardy respectively. 6. At WWE's 2005 pay-per-view Unforgiven, Ric Flair was fined $5,000 for not taking a post-match picture after winning the Intercontinental Championship against Carlito, refusing to take the photo out of pride. 7. In 1990, Eric Bischoff had an audition with WWE to be an announcer. Bischoff didn't land the job and instead took up a job with WCW, changing the course of wrestling history forever. 8. Former WWE wrestler Matt Morgan will live forever. In 2008, a memory device was put on the International Space Station called the Immortality Drive. It contains the digitized DNA sequences of some of the world's brightest minds, physical specimens, and cultural figures. Matt Morgan's DNA is included in this group. 9. Bret the Hitman Hart was the first man to ever enter the WWE Royal Rumble match in 1988. 10. Brian Pillman's wife once dated the Ultimate Warrior. That wraps up our 10-bell history here on Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. Stay tuned for our interview with Tony Vela coming right up. Welcome back to Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse with Lance Reese. Today we have a very special interview for our second episode. I'm joined here today in studio with Tony Vela of the Wrestling Guy store in Phoenix. How you doing, Tony?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
I got that last name right?
Yeah. Vela.
Vela.
As long as I respond.
All right. All right. I want to start by asking, like, we talked a bit before the interview, but how big of a wrestling fan are you, and how long have you had this passionate interest for?
Wrestling fan, I mean, I've been a fan since probably the age of 5.
5.
I just turned 55, so 50 years.
Wow, 50 years of wrestling.
I was introduced by my grandparents. I'm from Southern California, so I used to watch wrestling on Spanish-speaking stations. And my grandparents would take me to the sports arena in Los Angeles, and I would go and see guys like Andre the Giant,
Wow.
Classy Freddie Blassie,
Oh, wow.
stuff like that. And I just became like in awe of these giant, athletes. And it was I've been a fan ever since.
So does that what still appeals to you with wrestling, the giants and all the...
Not necessarily anymore, no. I mean, the sport itself has changed over the years, and I think your likes and dislikes change over the years. So, growing up as a kid when the whole Hulkamania thing kicked off in the 80s, I was never really a big fan of Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior. I liked Macho Man, but my favorites were, Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect.
The heels?
I liked it. I mean, you're also talking to a guy that I used to watch on Saturday mornings, and I used to watch, Iron Mike Sharp from Canada. It's like that, and he never won, but something about him that made me like watching him. But, and as your interests change as you get older, you're heavily into it, then you're not into it, and you're heavily into it. And, but it's always been part of my life. And then, I got into the booking business. So when I got into the booking business, I got to start working with a lot of these wrestlers and getting to know them on a personal level. And I got kind of tired of the travel. So then I said, one of these days I'm going to open a store. And here we are.
Here we are, and you got your store. And talk to us a bit about that.
Well, the store, has always been an idea. We are the Wrestling Guy Store Phoenix. Also not to be confused with the Wrestling Guy store in Los Angeles. And we do have the same name because David Gomez, the owner of the Wrestling Guy store in Los Angeles in Huntington Park, he's the one who suggested you should call yourself the Wrestling Guy store. And I would say, David, you're the wrestling guy store. He's like, yeah, but you be the wrestling guy store Phoenix. And we kept going back and forth and back. And I go, am I opening the store for you that I'm running, or is it my store? Like, how's this work? He goes, no. It'll be your store. And so he granted us the name, and we're very thankful of that, because doing searches on the internet and the algorithms work in our favor by having the name Wrestling Guy Store, because my wife and I were going to call the store Just Bring It. And that means something to you and me and other fans. But from a Google search perspective, it wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
And, it just kind of played out to finally in 2022. I decided that I just wasn't going to tour or travel as much with talent, and really focus on trying to open the store. But the key thing became about the capital. Like, how do you get the capital without taking out a loan or, borrowing money from a friend? And I funded the store on the sale of a wrestling trading card.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me. I mean, it's crazy. During the pandemic, I came across a set of cards in my storage unit, and it wasn't like, oh my God, I just found these. Like, I remember when I bought these. I bought these on eBay like in 2000 for like $35, $40 for a whole set of 6. I go, I wonder what the Hulk Hogan card goes for. And I saw a PSA 6 sell for $8,000. And I said, wow, mine's got to be at least a 6. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I sent it in, and I waited a year for it to come back. So as we're just starting to come out of the pandemic, and I didn't care because wrestling has no season.
Yeah.
And I was like, I came back and I got a PSA 9.
Wow.
So there were only 2 in the world that were 9. And I sent it over to the fine folks at Heritage Auctions. They put it up for auction for me, and it sold for a nice 5-figure sale. And I told my wife, hey, we have our capital.
Wow. Would you say that's the most valuable piece of memorabilia you've sold?
No. You know what? Maybe. Actually, now I think about it, maybe it's a tie. I have another piece, which is, again, trading cards. I'm big on the trading cards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as I'm wearing the T-shirt today, this is wrestling, WTC. And so I came across a wrestling card set that I had never held in my hands before, which is very rare for me. And that came to my door because of the store. The store has afforded me some cool luxuries in that sense, where it's like something comes through my door that I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like having a Ric Flair robe. Not a real one, but it's still a replica. But it's still so cool to have that. And but another trading card set came to my hands that I was, wow, I never thought I'd ever see these cards before in person.
Wow.
So now I'm debating what I want to do with them.
Yeah, that's a tall task.
Yeah. But it'll be another easy 5-figure sale. Easy.
What to you is the holy grail of pro wrestling memorabilia?
Depends. Different strokes for different folks. It really depends. I mean, we recently just had a real Ric Flair, genuine, worn robe a few months ago, sold for $130,000.
Wow.
Just 2 days ago, in the trading card world, we set a new record for wrestling cards. A 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Hulk Hogan card sold for $132,000. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, there's the A&E show that's on looking, for relics.
Yeah.
And which I haven't watched an episode yet, but so they're always looking for different things. Flair's robe, the cowboy hat that Kurt Angle wore, things like that. And those fetch, decent money. We're talking thousands and sometimes tens, and even in some cases 100,000.
I think it's crazy how these items just become associated with pro wrestling, and the fans they go for it. They'll buy into it because that's what they love. Yeah, and some people. Here's the thing about wrestling: when you compare, especially collectibles, when you compare it to other sports, as I call it, the stick and ball sports, fans are passionate about wrestling. And so items represent moments to them, more so than I think in any other sport, really. And we get taken back to a time where we, saw Hogan slam onto the Giants, or we see, The Rock pin Hogan at WrestleMania, things like that. And we get connected to those things, whether it be in cardboard form, a replica belt, an action figure, whatever the case may be.
And then fans will buy those things, and oftentimes they sit with them. And if you see something special that hits the market and it's something that connects with you, you best probably go buy it. It doesn't really matter what you're paying for it either, because it's probably going to be the last time you see it. Fans don't like to let go of their items.
Yeah. So we've been talking a bit about the trading cards, and you mentioned the shirt you're wearing. Talk to me a bit about WrestlingTradingCards.com.
Ooh, it's been my lifelong passion for a while. Well, I've been collecting for almost 40 years when it comes to wrestling cards. I started, as we call it, WTC, WrestlingTradingCards.com, because I was getting cards and I didn't have any information about them. And so I started to archive my own collection, and that became a website. And before it was WTC in the late 90s, I just started learning how to code and HTML, and it was called ComCollect. And I just kind of featured the cards in different genres that I liked. And in 2002, I just narrowed it down to wrestling only. And I just started archiving all information. And over the years, it's become the place to go to for checklists and information about wrestling cards. So much so that all the major grading companies use the website to help validate and authenticate wrestling cards in their research process. And it's come down to pretty much, if it doesn't exist on our website, they probably won't grade it.
Wow.
And so it's been a passion project for a long time. And it has lulls. I mean, there was a 7-year stretch. I didn't update the site at all. Still ranked number 1 in Google searches because of the keywords I put to it, and it still does to this day. And then, changed the site over to a WordPress format and kind of revamped it and modernized it a bit, and started getting all the new independent wrestling card sets, because that became a big craze a few years back. It's still regarded as the place to go to when you want wrestling information for trading cards.
I'm sure that's something you take a lot of pride in.
I do, but I also realize that the store has taken a lot of my time, and so I don't get to spend as much with it as I used to. But I have a great group of guys that help out. A big shout out to my buddy Paul and Ann from Toronto, from the Wrestling Card Price Guide, and Chuckster over out in Maryland, like that, our main archivist. These guys have really kept up with everything. I know it's just a matter of time before I go back and update the site, and someday down the road, I'm gonna have to find someone to take it over. I ain't getting any younger.
For the Wrestling Guy store in Phoenix, how proud are you of Phoenix New Times deeming your store as the best store for wrestling fans in their Best of Phoenix 2024 publication?
Well, especially when you're the only wrestling guy store in the state of Arizona. That would be really bad if I was the silver medalist in a one-man race, right? That kind of took us by surprise. We got an email from the New Times that said congratulations, and I just kind of blew it off, just looking at the subject line. And then I got an immediate phone call, and I saw it was the New Times, and I go, I don't want to take that because they're probably going to try to sell me something. Yeah. And so I let it go, and they called again, and so I answered, and they said, hey, congratulations. You want to go, what? And he's like, didn't you read the email? I said, no. I looked at the email. I said, well, we won an award? That's crazy. And whoever wrote that article, by the way, if you haven't read it, they clearly are a wrestling fan who wrote that article. They use a lot of wrestling jargon in that it's really, it was very flattering, let's put it that way. And my wife and I try really hard to make the store a place that's well accepted by all wrestling fans. We don't care what promotion you're a fan of. You could be a WWE guy, an AEW guy, New Japan, local independent promotions. We don't care what promotions you're a fan of. If you love wrestling, then we're your store. And we want to be all-encompassing that way.
That's a great position to be in.
Yeah. It's afforded us some luxuries where people know that this is the place to go to for, if I've got things I want to either sell, or I'm looking for things that are kind of unique. And we've built a customer base in less than 2 years. Next month is going to be our 2-year anniversary, where I have a regular customer from Portland, Oregon. I have a gentleman that's in from Taiwan. We've had people from Australia, Germany, Canada. They come from all over. And then we have regulars that are local that come in from Queen Creek, Santan, Mesa, of course, a lot. And I always hear like, you should open a store in Mesa, it'd be closer to my house. I'm like, but this is close to my house already.
That's good enough.
Yeah. So it's been great, and watching the community grow too. We have a lot of customers have become friends because of the store, and they're friends outside of just wrestling. They go to concerts together. They go have breakfast together. They spend time together. They become friends, and that's been the most rewarding thing, I think.
You feel like you're the centerpiece of the wrestling community in Arizona a bit?
Is that patting yourself on the back too much in that sense? But
I said it, man, not you.
We try to strive to be something like that. We would like to be a hub for everything wrestling. Whether it be you're an action figure collector, trading cards, obviously my specialty, T-shirts, and we're a little bit different than the LA store in that sense. They focus on all the new releases that are coming out, which is the bread and butter and the new T-shirts. I buy collections when I can. We do trading cards, and I have old DVDs. I've had magazines, oddball things. So that's what's different between the two stores. I'm a little bit of an East Coast feel meets West Coast feel type of thing. And I really want to encompass everything. I have VHS tapes from Japan, that people love to, wow, you have these like death matches and stuff like that, or you have these cool old, Coliseum videos, and so it's fun.
How does it feel knowing that there's so much great local professional wrestling here in Arizona? And what would you say is the epitome of that? And what's it like compared to the top guys like WWE?
Well, any independent is always going to be a bunch of young, hungry, talents that are, looking to carve their niche, and it's exciting to watch because they're out there to really perform and connect with those fans. And coming from Southern California, I got to watch a lot of PWGs, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and so a lot of big names came out of that, that place. Daniel Bryan came from there, the Young Bucks came out of there. So we used to watch a lot of wrestlers come out of that area. And then now moving here since 2018, I didn't realize what a big market this was for local independent wrestling. It's a very saturated market I can think of 6 different promotions in the Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe area alone. And we've been fortunate to work with a few of them, working with like SCW, Sonora Championship Wrestling, working with AWF and PCW now, so Phoenix Championship Wrestling. And I'm really happy to be working with Phoenix Championship. I'm happy to work with all of them, to be honest with you. But Phoenix Championship Wrestling has taken us under their wing, and I think they have the same type of mindset as we do from a business model. And, watching them, bring in consistently 500, 600, 700 fans every show. That's big for independent promotions. That's really big.
It's great to see. You and I were both at that Skyline show they had, the 6-year anniversary.
That was 1,650 people.
Yeah.
That was huge.
All local talent.
And that's another beautiful thing about what they do is all their stuff is homegrown talent. Yeah, they occasionally bring in somebody from outside, usually for a seminar type thing. Like they just had Jerry Lynn, a few months back. He wasn't part of the program, but he was there for a seminar and then did a meet and greet, the next day at the show. But, all their stuff is homegrown talent, and they're really trying hard to, get these guys prepared if that's what they want to do, is become, bigger professional wrestlers. And they're all great guys and gals that just try to work really hard.
Yeah.
They put on great shows.
They do.
All the local ones. You go to Sonora Championship Wrestling as well, a little bit smaller venue, but very passionate fans that go in there and they love their local talent. And it's fun to watch. My wife never had experienced pro wrestling until we opened the store. Even the years prior that we were together and then got married, nothing. She knew I work with wrestlers. I work with a lot of professional wrestlers. I've managed and worked with Kurt Angle for many years, Kevin Nash. And so it was, but when we started doing the store, she sort of, sucked in all the different knowledge, just kind of heard it and then kind of just regurgitates it like she knows it kind of thing. But she sounds very convincing. And we went to our first independent show here in Arizona, which was Sonora Championship Wrestling. And my wife was getting the crowd chanting. She was, getting all, like, oh, you must be a big fan. She goes, this is my first time.
Natural.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love the local scene. I've been going since before the pandemic, I want to say.
What promotions have you gone to?
Phoenix Championship Wrestling, of course. IZW, one of them. When it was still around, Cactus League Wrestling.
Yep. I think I even went recently. I went to go check out. We got an invitation to go to Lucha Boss. And so that was fun to watch too over at Beer Shooters, I think it's called, something like that.
Bull Shooters?
Bull Shooters, there you go.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So I really appreciate being yelled at in both Spanish and English.
Brings you back to the old Spanish TV wrestling days.
It exactly does.
You mentioned this. What was it like managing Kurt Angle? Talk to me a bit about that.
I just, today's his birthday.
Oh.
So I just sent him a text this morning on the way here to wish him a happy birthday. Kurt is amazing. He is he's just a beast, man.
Yeah.
That guy is he's an animal. He's just built differently than the rest of us. There's a reason why Sports Illustrated, ranks him in the top 50 toughest athletes of all time.
Yeah.
He's been very good to our family. I've enjoyed traveling with him. I don't do it as much. I'm not the only one that works with him. He has multiple people who work with him, but I always know that I can reach out to him whenever I need to, and he'll answer the phone, and or at least call me back, within 15, 20 minutes. But he's a great guy. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, they're all great people that I've worked with over the years. I mean, there's a laundry list of people from Jericho to Nash to Scott Hall to Chyna. I was good friends with her. So it's been fun. I never thought as a kid, I never thought that would probably grow into actually knowing these people, and some of them becoming good close friends.
How long have you been managing wrestlers for?
Well, managing is different. I'm not really a manager. I'm a booking agent.
Yeah, booking agent.
Yeah, so I mean, we do a lot of Comic Cons, pop culture conventions, occasional private signings, and I've only done on one hand I can count of times I've maybe booked for an actual wrestling promotion to be like a special guest referee or to actually wrestle. Like I did that for Sabu in California. We did AWS, Vendetta Pro, things like that. But been doing it off and on now for 25 plus years. So, and I think my time is up when it comes to that. I do occasionally do some things. I have some stuff in 2025 that I'm doing with Kurt. But other than that, I don't do it as much. I have a good friend out in Indiana that I trust complicitly, and I pass him on the talent names for him to get in and do what he needs to do.
Do you have a favorite era of wrestling from a certain promotion or anything?
Everybody likes to go to the Attitude Era. That's always a fun one. But you know what? The network has allowed a lot of us to go back and kind of rewatch those things. And while I know they're edited, I kind of go back and I cringe a little bit, going like, we were fans of that. That was like big for us then, But there's some very entertaining aspects, of course, too. I don't know. I like my PWG back in the day, early 2010s time frame. As a kid, I find something in all of them, to be honest with you. I'm not one of those guys who goes like, man, I really wish wrestling used to be like it used to be, man.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy going, I wish it was, like it was in the late 80s. That was the best.
You just enjoy it for what it is.
I enjoy it for what it is. You have to, evolve and adapt. You find certain aspects of whatever era you're into that you like the most. I'm enjoying wrestling right now.
Yeah.
I think wrestling is on fire. I think story-wise, it's incredible. My wife, who's never watched wrestling, is like, I love this whole Dominic and Liv and Rhea Ripley stuff, and I love it. It's intriguing to me. And there's a lot of, I'm loving the whole Drew McIntyre, stuff that he was doing with CM Punk. And I don't even like CM Punk, but he's knocking it out of the park, man. I'm just having a fun time watching wrestling. Period.
Like you said, wrestling doesn't have a season, so how can you get in a rut?
Yeah, you can't. If you're not liking what's going on in AEW, go watch WWE and vice versa. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to check out this AAA stuff going on in Mexico, or, get into the local independent. I recommend people who live out here and you're a wrestling fan and you haven't been to like a PCW show or an IZW show or, check them out, man. Yeah. One, you're helping support someone with their passion. Buy a T-shirt from them, get an autograph. And two, you never know. Maybe you're going to meet the next, Drew McIntyre or CM Punk. You have no idea.
That's another crazy thing to think about. It's like these wrestlers are building upon their careers and statuses as legends like a mountain, and it shifts over time. But what about those certain peaks, like when they
Where they explode?
Where they explode, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing that I can equate that into trading cards. So finally, in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, maybe especially, collectors are treating wrestling cards like anything else, like baseball and basketball and football. They're prospecting. They're speculating. Oh, Julia, she might be the next big female wrestler right now. You get into Roman Reigns, because right now for modern era, Roman Reigns is king. In the collectible world for trading cards, he's king. I mean, we just had one of his cards sell for $40,000,
wow.
which is that's impressive.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 years ago, to find cards that sold in the 5-figure sale consistently was unheard of in wrestling. Now it's pretty regular. Definitely stuff in the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 range. We do a monthly recap where we talk about the top 10 sales in wrestling cards, and it takes at least $2,000 to $3,000 to even crack the top 10. And that's just public sales. There's a lot of private sales that go on that you don't really get to hear about, that, cash is exchanged, So collectibles as a whole, I mean, people like to prospect. And that's kind of where people are at right now. Like, who's going to be the next big thing, to steal Brock Lesnar's line?
You were granted the nickname The Wrestling Guy from your buddy in LA. Tell me a little bit about him. Like, how did he get the Wrestling Guy name? Do you know?
That's just the name he chose. He started out in a flea market, I believe, for a number of years. And I think when you combine the flea market years and the brick and mortar where he's at over in Huntington Park, California, he's been there, I think next year is going to be his 19th year. I think he's been there for a while. And so he brought names in that were local, Chris Masters, Chavo Guerrero. But he, likes to say that I helped put him on the map a little more because I brought him Rob Van Dam. And that was a pretty big name to bring him early when he was just starting as a brick and mortar. And from then on, he just kind of grew from there. And then Lucha Underground became a thing. And he's literally blocks away from the temple, where they would do that. And he helped with their merchandise station out there. And so everybody who ever wrestled for Lucha, from Johnny Mundo, which is John Morrison, to Penta, to Rey Mysterio, they all came to the store. They all met fans. So he's the OG. There's a couple of other wrestling stores there, but they're not David. They're not the Wrestling Guy store. That's the place to go to. And him coming, he just came with the name. I actually would be curious to interview him to talk about how'd you come with that name.
Might be something down the line.
It's brilliant, actually, because it's the perfect name to have. You're the Wrestling Guy. The funny side I note on that is I used to shy away from that. Like when I was in the booking business, I worked with movie, TV, musicians, and a lot of wrestlers, obviously. And guys would call me, oh, you're that wrestling guy. You're the wrestling guy. And I used to kind of be offended by that because I'm like, no, I'm more than that. And my wife goes, at least they recognize you for something. You should embrace it. And I go, that's kind of true. And now here I am. I'm literally the wrestling guy.
Man.
I mean, we get it all the time. Customers who come in the store. That's part of, we have some kind of, I haven't been in a while because I haven't had any money to buy anything. Like, you don't have to come and buy something, dude. You could just come in and you want to rap about SummerSlam. Let's talk about it, man. I mean, you want to talk about, what's going on in AEW. Let's talk about it, Yeah. I may not know all the stuff because as we were talking off air earlier, we don't watch TV at home. I have Disney Plus and I have Netflix. So I guess that's going to change come January now that Monday Night Raw is going to be on Netflix. But I don't really watch anything other than that because we just don't have TV. So I catch up on social media. I catch up because of the network. So I watch, the Raw recap, SmackDown, Lowdown, things like that. I just keep up that way. So we're on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, and we're relentless on posting all the time. I don't have an app. I don't have a tool. I don't use any bot type programs. It's completely organic and natural, and it's another full-time job. Yeah. So when I leave here, I'll be on social media and just be plugging away. Even though we're closed today, we're closed on Mondays. I just constantly barraging, whether it be items we're looking to sell or just memes or funny, interacting and trying to get engaged with people like, when you see this logo, this version of logo, who do you think of first? You know, kind of that kind of stuff.
It's the grind. You gotta stay up with it.
It was like you and the radio stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta just keep grinding away, man.
As we wrap up our second episode of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse, I'm Lance Reese with Tony Vela, and I have one more question to ask. So, you've had a lot of wrestlers stop by your shop to engage with meet and greets and the likes of that. Who has been your personal favorite to work with and just see in the store, man, if you're even allowed to say?
That's like picking your favorite kid.
Yeah.
You know, they're all great, all of them. I mean, obviously, I'm going to have a soft spot for having Kurt, because we had Kurt there in November last year. So that was phenomenal. And again, we say having him there really helped put us on the map, even though we'd been open for, we had a soft opening in November of 2022. We grand opened in January of 2023. So, you know, he was 1 year in our soft opening. So he was always great. But they've all been great. The fans keep turning out more and more. You know, some because I'm not a fan of that person, but I'm a fan of this person. I mean, we've had Kurt Angle, we've had Rikishi, we've had we've gone ECW stuff. We had Sabu and Sandman.
Yeah.
We had Godfather recently. We just had Thunder Rosa. We had grand open with Honky Tonk Man. He lives here. He lives right here in Mesa. We've had Adam Bomb, Kelly, Victoria, Melina, who is coming back, by the way, this coming
Toys
Sunday.
for Tots.
This coming Sunday, she's for Toys for Tots drive. And so, you know, if you're in the Phoenix area, we are our Toys for Tots drop-off location. You know, bring a toy, even if you don't want to meet Melina on Sunday. But if you do drop off a toy, you get a free photo up with her. But she decided she's going to be in town anyway, so hey, can I come in the stores? Absolutely. So we have an open door policy with everybody. If you're a wrestler and you're looking to come in and you want to make a little extra money and sell some autographs and meet fans, let us know, man. You're happy to come in.
Open door.
Open door to anybody. I mean, I've got some announcements coming up here soon for January for our 2-year anniversary. Well, I guess I can say it right now, I guess. You know, our 2-year anniversary guest is going to be Jerry the King Lawler. Then I have another really good name coming for February that's already booked. And then another legend coming in March.
Nice.
So we're kind of planning out our 2025 calendar, but always check our website. Go to our website, check out and sign up for our email. We always let our email subscribers get first crack at everything. They get first crack at merchandise, first crack at tickets for meet and greets. They always get to be in the know first. And before we post it on social media. I usually wait a day or two afterwards and post it on social media. So go there and sign up. But we're active on everything, and it's a grind, man. It's a grind, and being a small business owner can, you know, if you're married, can put a strain on your marriage sometimes, because it's just all about, you got to have some tunnel vision. You got to kind of block things out. I wanted to be a booking agent. I wanted to go do this and run a store, and I just can't do it all. So now it's just store. And unfortunately, things get kind of thrown off to the side and left alone for a while because the focus is the store. And we're doing the best that we can to make it the best that we can. And, you know, we want to get more fans like you and to come in and make it a destination spot, which is becoming that thing. Like I told you earlier, people coming from different countries, they look us up, which I think is cool. They're looking up a wrestling store to begin with.
Yeah.
And they look us up, and now we're a destination spot. It's like, oh, well, we come out there once a year, you know, during the off seasons like that, come out and, you know, now you're a stop for us. We have to come in to your store while we're in town. And that's always cool.
That is cool.
I should get a map in the back room and just kind of start putting pins in it for all the different countries that come into the store.
It's a great idea.
Should start doing that.
Yeah. That wraps up episode 2 of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. Thank you to my guest, Tony Vela of the Wrestling Guy Store Phoenix and WrestlingTradingCards.com.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me in.
That wraps up episode 2 of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. I'm Lance Reese, and until the next time,